Hey friends, Graham here from therecordingrevolution.com, and today I want to show you how you can think of compression and compressors in your DAW as little tone machines, almost like EQs. On the blog recently, we talked about how there's a reason why a lot of the big studios have multiple different preamps of different brands, of different types, multiple different compressors, multiple different EQs. If a preamp can do what a preamp can do and a compressor can do what a compressor can do, why have different types to choose from? And a lot of the reasons circle around different colors. You can paint your mix, your recording with different tones so that every track hasn't been processed through the exact same chain, so that each track can have a little bit of a separation, its own sonic identity, different colors. Like a painter uses more than just one color to paint a picture, even though he could use one color. Different colors makes the painting more engaging, make the picture jump off the page in a more lively way. So we want to think about tone when we can. And in the common home studio, most of us are starting out, we don't have a whole lot of outboard stuff, if any. And so really, I want you to think about using tone in your mixes and think about plugins. These days, a lot of plugins are made to emulate different pieces in the hardware real world, and even if they're not made to emulate something, they have been given their own sonic imprint. So today I've got a vocal, and I want to show you how 3 different compressors set to relatively similar settings can have slightly different, keyword being slightly, tonal influences on the vocal, so that if you had maybe 2 compressors to choose from, you would think about auditioning one over the other and seeing which one actually complements the vocal or the bass guitar or whatever a little bit better. So here's the vocal with no compression.
Here I go, far away from the shadows, to a place where I belong.
And the first compressor I'm going to put on is the SSL channel strip. Now I've bypassed the EQ with this button here, so when I turn it on, you're not hearing any of the EQ or filtering. You're just hearing the dynamics processing, which in this case is just the compressor set to a 2-to-1 ratio, sort of mid-release, and I've dialed the threshold all the way as far down as I can. But really, I just grabbed those knobs and turned them while I was looking here at the gain reduction meter. And so I've got this set up, and the compression helps, but I'm going to use the SSL kind of as a baseline, and we'll compare the other 2 compressors to it.
Here I go, far away from the shadows, to a place where I belong.
Yeah, the compressor helps. A lot more even and punchy and forward. So that's the SSL sound. It's really hard to hear anything because you're not comparing it to anything else. I would consider it kind of forward sounding. So compare that to, say, the stock Avid Digi 3 Dynamics 3 compressor.
Here I go, far away from the shadows, to a place where I belong.
Pretty similar. If you're listening just on YouTube without any good speakers or not at full HD, you might not even hear a single difference. So for that, I apologize. But what I hear with this compressor is a little bit more top end. I've always thought that this compressor has a little bit more top end in it than other compressors, which can be a good or a bad thing. So here it is again, and I'll flip back to the SSL.
Here I go, far away from the shadows, to a place where I belong.
SSL.
Here I go, far away from the shadows, to a place where I belong.
It's close, but the SSL sounds maybe a little bit more mid-range focused. And then now let's compare it to the LA3A.
Here I go, far away from the shadows, to a place where I belong.
A little smoother. a little less top end, a little less forward sounding. It almost sort of keeps the body of the vocal. It's very similar compression setting, but it sounds a little smoother to my taste. So again, let's compare the LA3A now to the Avid compressor. So LA3A, and then I'll play the Avid.
Here I go, far away,
Let's just listen to that line, far away.
far away from the shadows,
Switch.
far away from the shadows.
You hear it on away, far away. That gets a little bit brighter. So here's far away on the LA3A.
Far away, far away from the shadows.
So the Avid compressor sounds brighter to me on the far away, and compare that to the SSL. Here's the bright of the Pro Tools one, and here's the SSL.
Far away, far away from the shadows.
Still forward and bright, but not in the same frequency as the Dynamics 3 compressor. So this is super nuanced. So why am I bringing this up to you? Well, here's something to consider. Here's like two applications for you, especially if you're recording. Let's say you have just the audio interface in your studio and you plug your mics right into it, and maybe you only have one mic. And so you're going to have the same signal chain, same signal path for all your tracks. When it comes to the mix, this is going to be your opportunity to paint with different colors, if that's all you have available to you. And so you might have your stock compressors and your stock EQs, but you might also have another type of compressor come stock. Pro Tools comes with 2 different compressors stock, actually 3. Logic has always had a couple of different compressors, so you might already have a couple options to you. Reason has the built-in SSL compressor, and then you've got some different, rack compressors. Compare one compressor on a lead vocal to another and listen to it and see what is it doing tonally. Try to get similar compression settings, but also think about what is it doing tonally to my track, and does one help over the other? Because this Pro Tools compressor could sound a little too harsh on his lead vocal, on Daniel's lead vocal. It could sound a little too harsh, and so then I wouldn't want to reach for that on his vocal. Whereas if I recorded a really dark, rich sounding lead vocal that was a little too dark and I need to brighten it up, I could grab this compressor knowing that this sounds a little brighter, slap it on there and see if it actually brightens up the vocal before I even reach for an EQ. You may not even need an EQ, which is a wonderful thing. The fewer plugins you use, the better. So that's something to consider. You can mix and match and find what complements the voice or the guitar or whatever better. And then the other application would be to help your mix itself a little bit on its own. Try to get as much separation as you can by having different sounding tracks. And if you hopefully are doing that on the recording side of things, recording different guitars, different guitar amps, different mics, different mic positions, so that all your tracks have a slightly different sonic imprint when they're going in. But you can build off of that, or start that if you never did, in the mixing phase by saying, you know what, I'm going to use the LA3A on the lead vocal because I think it sounds really smooth. But when I go to process the background vocals, I'm going to use a different compressor so that it has its own unique sonic imprint. And when I go to process the bass guitar, I'm going to use a different compressor if I have one, so that it's adding its own sonic characteristics. And these are very subtle, very, very subtle things. These aren't the big wins, but these are some of the things you want to think about as you're mixing. Paint your mix with different colors. And take a listen. Take a moment, take 30 minutes one day to audition some of the compressors you have or some of the EQs you have, and even just in factory default setting, no actual knobs being changed. When you just insert the plugin, does it do something tonally to your track that you like or don't like? And you'll learn something about the tone and the character of that plugin beyond just the settings that it can impart. Hope that gives you something to think about this week on your mixes. Again, Graham here from therecordingrevolution.com. If you like the video, subscribe. Give me a thumbs up on YouTube if you like it. And if you haven't already joined the mailing list, I've got my ebook there and the Smart Start to Mixing series, which will really help you get your mixes started faster and with more clarity, more headroom, and better gain structure. I put all that in one video that makes a lot of sense. It's about an hour. It'll help you out. It's all free. Just join the list right there, and I'll send you a bunch of other free content that I don't post here as well. Have a great week. We'll talk to you in another video soon. Take care.